Welcome to Club Damingo, brought to you by Cyclone Comics.
Recording in progress.
Recording in progress.
In case anybody looks, and I know that we have people who come in late. There's a cat on my lap. If you see,
yes,
you see me. Yeah, right. Sure, there is.
Hey, that's a pretty cool FraserPOP shirt you got on there. Is there a design on the back, or is it just on the chest there?
Oh well, I've got a cat on my lap, so I cannot stand up to show you. But that is
just say yes. There is a design on the back.
Yes, there is a design on the back.
Right,
Same design. Yeah. So I did FraserPOP last year, first time I've done it, and wonderful people, really, really great fun show, especially when you go with Dean Rankine and Mark Ratz and Luke and the Sons of Obi-Wan. Saber Academy, like we had a great time. So and it's an interesting show. It's a school fate on nerd steroids, and that sounds like I'm being denigrating, but I'm not. It is run by the school, and it's run by the senior students who do business studies, I think.
Right. Okay. Yeah.
And it is enormous. It's a very large school. It's a state school, but it's one of those. It's in Maryborough, so it's a regional show, but this is a huge school, really old-fashioned sandstone school on two campuses across the road from each other, and it takes up the whole lot. It's really big, and it's good fun. It's the same town that has the Mary Poppins Festival. Because the woman who wrote Mary Poppins came from there. So yeah, they put on a few festivals like this, and we actually do like workshops for the school as well on the Friday. We arrive on Thursday. We do workshops for the school, and then we do the convention after that. And great people, lovely people.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Right. Okay. And how many of those have you been to? One or two?
Just one. I think Dean's done two or three.
Right.
I think Mark might have done two. So yeah, I'm not going this year. I've tried as hard as I can to keep the conventions a lot fewer this year.
Yeah.
But otherwise, yeah, the invitation was open to go back again, but not this year. Maybe next year. So yeah.
And did you say that you wanted to mention something that you were going to later on this year?
Oh, yeah, this weekend. Oh, now I can't get up because I've got a cat on my lap, but I was going to show you some stuff. I'm going to Comic Gong this weekend, which is probably one of the best names for a Comic Con ever, Comic Gong, because it's in Wollongong. So that's where the Gong comes from, Comic Gong.
Yep. That's the one that Marcelo is closely associated with doing posters and promos and...
How many years is it? Maybe 5, maybe 7 years. And yeah, he's been doing like a long form story via the posters with these two characters. I think it's Astrid and Astro the gorilla.
Astro the gorilla. You can't go wrong with a spacefaring gorilla.
That's right. That's why he did it. He just wanted to draw a space woman and a space gorilla.
Yeah.
And then he's kind of evolved a little story every year from that, Marcelo Baez. So yeah, this will only be my second time tabling. And I just never seem to get around to tabling. And everybody talks about how great it can be. It's not always 100% great for everybody because it depends on where you're placed, obviously. Same story no matter what kind of conventions you go to. It depends on where you're placed. But yeah, people talk about how fantastic it is. So we went 2 years ago and had a good time, and we're going to go this year. But everybody's nervous this year because instead of having it in the same precinct, which is town centre, in several places, town hall, library, Main Street, all sorts of places, which I think is great. Almost
like Angoulême.
Exactly what I was going to say, like a mini Angoulême where you kind of try to take over the town. I wish that they had leaned into that and tried to do that, but they've moved it down the road a little bit to Dapto.
Dapto dog.
That's exactly right. We're at the Dapto Ribbonwood Centre, which is an entertainment centre and a library, community centre, I think. So it's the first year that they've moved it there.
So it's all under one roof?
all under one roof, yeah. And free parking, and there's public transport and everything because it's a community centre. But everyone's worried that, is it going to be as good? So let's see. Please come.
Yeah, everyone will put in the effort, I think. Yeah,
I hope so.
Mm.
I was going to say, I brought them out to show you, but now a cat is on my lap. I've got T-shirts for sale for the first time in a very long time. When we shot the short film, one of the characters, Colleen, played by Maya Mitchell, wears a T-shirt at the end with a Lassie logo on it, and Lassie is direct rip from the comic. It's Colin McGuinn's socio-political subversive terrorist party called Lassie, which is an acronym, like SHIELD is an acronym, and it stands for Leftist Animalist Survivalist Society, including the environment. And we've got a Latin motto at the bottom. So it says Lassie across the top, and then a Latin motto at the bottom. And the Latin motto is Veni Domum, which is Latin for come home. So it's Lassie come home.
Very nice.
So we had to print up a T-shirt for her. And my incredible daughter, Annabelle, works at the Uni of New South Wales in their art department, the design, architecture, something, I don't know, the art department in the print area. So we what's up, Boots? We had access to her printmaking, her screen printing facilities. So I thought we were going to print up like one or two for Maya, and they gave us like a dozen T-shirts and said, just in case she doesn't like the size or the fit or whatever. And so we printed up a dozen, of which she wore one or two. But I also had a bunch that I'd bought cheap somewhere that I was going to print other stuff on. So we printed up a bunch there as well. So we've got only a very short number. I'm just looking across. I think it might be like 6 T-shirts, a couple of which were going to be used in the movie and were possibly tried on by Maya, but they're in the same style as the one that's in the movie, and a couple of others as well.
Does Boots realise that this is a visual medium?
but I know. I wish Boots would. Boots, and she's getting very cranky. Look at that. She's cranky. I don't know, because I'm talking.
Pulp the cat. Pulp the cat. Pulp the cat.
Yeah. If you're cranky, you're going to go. You know that, right? You can't be on there and yell at me.
And we can't see the T-shirt.
Off you get.
Oh, unimpressed cat.
Unimpressed cat. So that's the T-shirts.
Ah, nice. Yes.
And at one point when they were saying, Tim, we need you to design the T-shirt and blah, blah, blah. Right. Nice. So a few different colors. These are the colors and the prints of the one that was worn in the film. So we when they said let's do one, I said I'd like to just actually draw it like I would normally draw it in the comic and use my hand-drawn thing rather than making something in Illustrator, which is perfect and beautiful. So it's actually like hand-drawn on paper, and then with my own cross-hatching, etc.
Right.
So a bunch of tote bags as well.
Nice.
With Veni Domum, Lassie Veni Domum on them, as well as the ones I did a year or so ago.
Yeah,
that's also a tote bag with a good cartoony Trevor on it in black and calico. I only got, I think, 3 blacks left. So if you want a black, you'll have to.
Those black ones are great. I think.
Oh yeah, you got a black one.
Yeah,
did
you?
Yeah.
You sent me one of those.
Yeah.
Very nice indeed. Yes.
And of course, all the comics as usual.
Boots is still unimpressed. Ears back.
No. Can you see her there? Yeah, look at that. What's up, Boots? Cheeky bugger. And of course, all the comics except we just did Amory and I did a quick count of the comics yesterday. I think with stock take, and we've got like 3 copies of number 2 and 5 copies of number 4, and that's it. So if you want a full set, you'll have to come early because they'll be gone. And I shouldn't say I'm still selling them at $2.50 because maybe I'll sell them for $50. But at this point, I still just want to sell. If you buy a set, you get 1 to 4 for $10, and 5 to 7 for another $10, and so yeah.
Just buy the lot and then buy the trade when it comes out.
Cheapest comics in the joint, I'm sure.
Yeah. Do you know who you're tabling next to?
No, they gave me my table number, which is K11. But the map doesn't say who everybody is. It just says you're there.
Yeah. Okay.
So no, I don't. I know Samuel's going to be there. My son, he's across from me and up a little bit.
That's awkward.
And in fact, there's heaps of people coming. It is actually a pretty big show for comics. It's worth coming down from Sydney for it. Absolutely. There's lots of people with comics. Oh, and something I'm going to do. Do you know John Hanna? You know John Hanna? He does like a manga inspired set of comics, a whole bunch of different things. And he just did a comic adaptation of a novel by very famous Australian like action novelist. Anyway, he did that as well just recently. So it's really, really thick. And I can't believe how quickly he pumps stuff out, John Hanna, and all of really good quality. But he's also, now he's got so many different series and so many issues from each series on his table that he's had to try to figure out a way to present them. And there are people like that. Like I think of Sean from Comics to Movies, and
Sean Keenan.
Sean Keenan, and Kieran from the Talking Bread and Halftone Productions.
Mm-hmm.
And they've got heaps, and they've got these big racks and everything. But John's got this thing that he invented himself, and I've asked him if I can trial it, because I'll probably buy some from him, where it's a stand, right, for your comic, but he's got little notches and stuff in them so that they stack, so that you stack them in top of each other, and then when you finish, they all just kind of fold back into one, and it's like this really compact thing. And I contacted him over the weekend and said, "Bring your spares, and I'll trial them, because maybe I'll buy some from you." And he said, "I've got a version 2 prototype in the printer right now, in his 3D printer."
Mm-hmm.
He said, "I'm going to be trialing my own version 2, so I'll let you have a version 1 to have a trial of." And we're going, "Hey, you're so smart. He's so clever."
Mm-hmm.
So something to look forward to. You got to do something to keep yourself interested.
I do remember a couple of years ago, John Hanna, in one of his projects that he submitted for the CARS, the Comic Arts Awards of Australia, that there was an issue where he drew a fantastic car chase, lots of action and stuff to do with cars. No humans drawn in the panels at all. And it was one of the best choreographed and best illustrated car chases I've seen in comics, because they're really hard to do. And most people avoid them because it's so difficult to draw. But he gave it so much life. It was absolutely brilliant.
Cool. I'll have to tell him. He'll love to hear that. He because that's one of his other loves, is cars. He often actually goes and races them, I think legally, like on a racetrack where you can hire out some time on a racetrack. So he loves cars. He loves fast cars. So he got the two loves and put them together, and he says it's the worst selling comic he's got, because who wants to buy a comic about cars? But I'll tell him that you said it was fantastic. So
you'll probably know the scene that I'm talking about, unless of course the whole series is laced with that stuff. But the one that I saw that particular year, it was the centerpiece of the book, was it was really eyebrow raising. Like, wow, it's very hard to put life into a car chase in a comic. And for the reader to have an interest in the choreography and the storytelling of inanimate objects, or not inanimate, but there's no human emotion there. It's just seeing these vehicles parade around the page. And geez, he did a great job. It was fantastic.
Fantastic. Cool, man. So come and at least check him out as well.
The rest of it was shit, but the cars were no. joking.
Yeah, cool. So
and with John, I was always impressed with his graphic design and presentation of all of his books as well. A very high standard required across the board. Yeah,
pretty sure that's his living, his design. Yeah,
you can tell. Yeah, there's a huge need for more graphic design skills in presenting comics these days, I think, and understanding what works as far as front covers and just general interior design as well, right across the board. I mean, you can go for the rough as guts underground look. That's totally fine. But if you're trying to pitch to a commercial mainstream level, and you can't hire someone to do it. You have to really be aware of good or bad or weak or strong graphic design and how it helps your project.
Yeah. I go all the way back to like the mid '90s when Jason Paulos was doing everything from his minis all the way up to his newsstand stuff, and the trade paperbacks always looked fantastic design wise, as well as the story and the characters being great and fun and everything. But always logos, design, eye popping, always fantastic.
He had access to the first Max in a professional, I think the studio that he was working in or the agency that he was working for had access. So he was one of the very first people that I knew of that was doing the pre-press using a Mac machine. And because I was doing it all old school and still do for such a long time. But he jumped on board pretty quickly with the computerized fonts and the the Adobe stuff. Well, back then it might have been PageMaker and Quark Express.
Would have been Quark Express.
All those things that are now long gone. Freehand,
Freehand and Illustrator.
Macromedia Freehand,
That's right.
Yes, and it's not sad. It's actually quite freeing that I just the other month finally finished my Adobe subscription. So I have deinstalled all my Adobe programs, and I'm forcing myself to get used to the Affinity suite, which is really it's pretty amazing. So yes, you can teach an old dog new tricks when it comes to leaving Adobe. And even this show, when it gets edited, it's not. I started off using Adobe Premiere, and then I found a nice free software that does exactly the same thing for the limited amount of special effects and doodads that we need to edit a show together. So the last 3 or 4 weeks of Club Damingo has been done with this new software that I don't think you could tell the difference.
Amazing.
Does the job. So stuff you need, Adobe.
Exactly. So it opens up all the old files. You can open up your InDesign files in Affinity.
There are some times that it can open up and you got to save as. Depending on what Affinity program you're in, you can actually identify some Adobe programs, open up, save as, or export as. But there are some InDesign program files that you need to open up in InDesign and save as another file for Affinity to recognize.
Right. Right.
So that's a bit of self-awareness, but I've committed now to anything that I'm doing in the design in the publisher program for Affinity, and I've done it previously in InDesign. I'm just going to have to rebuild in Affinity, a lot of the stuff that I have planned moving into the future is reconstruction of old material or new material that can be designed from scratch anyway. So I don't think I'll be bumping into that problem too much.
Yeah, right. Cool. I was this close to doing it myself the last time I had to redo my subscription, but I had a brainwave and I thought I'd ask somebody I knew about whether or not I could share the JMC one. So I'm kind of on that. It's a little bit restrictive. It's not exactly like I have my complete own version of everything, but so I'm on that at the moment, and that's fine. So I'm doing that for now, and I might keep on doing that for as long as it's useful.
Right. And I do have access to a Creative Cloud subscription through my work as well, but I'd like keeping things very separate. Work for work and my stuff. But if push comes to shove, and I've got a file I need to crack out of an emergency, I can always just thumb drive it and save it as and get it back over to the other side and keep on going. Yeah.
There's Don Ticchio, of course. Don Ticchio from Southern Aurora Comics and now Silver Fox Comics.
Yes.
So Don is our era of design as well. And I needed access to Greener Pastures #4, the Quark Express files, which, 20 years out of date, and I asked him if he still is able to open these things, because we'd had conversations like this before, and he continues to operate a very old, I think it's one of the blue and white, maybe the silver and white and gray Max,
wow,
specifically so that he can access Quark Express and page. It is PageMaker, right?
Yeah.
And also so he can access zip files and SciQuest, not zip files, zip discs and SciQuest discs.
SciQuest.
Like so.
Wow. Oh,
so he's
taken me back.
Got all of that stuff. Can you remember when 250 megabytes on a disc this big was like a big deal? 250 megabytes.
Yeah.
And it was a big clunky external hard drive that went into a machine, ka-chunk.
Yep.
So he's got, well, last time I spoke to him, and I know he's kind of closed the studio down now, but he had all that stuff because he's got clients who would have old files and they need to access them. So
definitely, yeah. And I'm going through boxes, talking of old clients, boxes of samples of work that I've done over the years for commercial art clients. Why am I keeping this stuff? And yet it's a little trip down memory lane, like the different government departments that I've worked for and the annual reports that I've designed. And they're quite lovely pieces still for what they are. But why did I drag them down to Tasmania with me?
And every time you move, you go, I've got I kept a good 10 of these to show people, and I'll now that I'm moving, I'll only do 5. And then the next time you look, you go, why have I got 5? I'll just keep 2. And the next time you look, you go, why have I got 2? I'll keep 1. And eventually you go, I'm just going to chuck that.
I'm just going to chuck it stage. Going through the 2 rooms that I have up here are just full of boxes of stuff that are, like even when you get, like comp copies of certain books from overseas that you've participated in.
Yeah,
like the Astro City phone book, one of the books that I've got there. I've still got, like 6 or so comps there that are just heavy things that I refuse to move them from house to house. So if they don't, if I can't move them somehow or give them as gifts or sell them or something like that, then, down to the book exchange they go, down to the library or whatever.
Yeah. I'll buy one off you when I'm in Hobart later this year.
Oh,
I'll take one of those.
The disadvantage is that they're so bloody heavy. They're beautiful things, but the paper stock.
They're like omnibus size.
Yeah,
right. Yeah. I don't have, other than your issue, I don't think I got any Astro City at all. So it would be interesting to read it. Yeah.
Right. Well, I'll set one aside. So that's 5 more I've got to get rid of, not 6. Yeah.
We'll set up a table at the Stanleys at the Stanley conference.
Take
the
one,
Chaloner
take
collection.
2. Yeah, because as I think we mentioned, I don't know whether it was on air or not last week, but I've still got stacks of the Ledger annuals and lots of other things that I've accumulated over the years that I just prefer them in someone's hands that are going to appreciate them. So I need to get to the Stanleys is ideal, but I'd have to get to a situation where I can interact with people. It's not going to cost me a lot of time and effort in posting things.
Yeah. No, we talked about that off air. Yeah, I've got a bunch in the cupboard behind me, and if I can remember, I'll bring them to Comic Gong, and everybody who buys a comic off me will get a free Ledgers annual or Cars annual, or 3. They can take one of each. Because I'd rather people go, oh, really? Is this what happens in Australian comics? So
Yeah, exactly. So, perfect opportunity.
I've got a stack. I've still got some Tides of Hope as well, which I might start giving away. Which you've got a page in.
Yeah, I actually.
No way. Did that just come out of a folder the other day?
Yeah, it did.
There it is. Such a beautiful piece, Gary. It's so beautiful, very delicate, amazing. Was that a conscious decision to try to do something that felt more like a book illustration for that?
Yeah. There was something that I did a similar style for a page in Planet of the Apes, just to denote oldie worldy flashback kind of thing, and I dug that out the other day too. So bear with me, I just got it here.
I've been trying to look into your eyes every time you're talking, Gary, but I've been looking at whatever it is that's sitting on your drawing board instead, because all that stuff looks amazing. Yeah, exactly.
Going through a Norman Lindsay phase of just scratchy nib inking.
Yeah, beautiful.
So that's every now and then I hit the archives to try and sell some stuff and get some cash in the bank, and came across a whole swag, the last 18 pages of the Apes artwork that I'm going to try and get rid of, and that's one of the pages. That's from part 4, page 18. Foucault's Institute for Mental Incurables. Yeah.
That was your high school, yeah?
Yeah. But, yeah, very heavily influenced by the old Norman Lindsay there. And the word balloons are all stuck on, and the glue is still holding together. It's quite firmly in place. But
Cool.
yeah. The old days of hand lettering.
Is that that 18 pages that you came across, is that all 100% Chaloner, or is that some of those pages inked by Greg Gates and Dillon Naylor?
It's all inked by Dillon, but
Right,
the Greg
cool.
Gates, most of issue 3, I returned to Greg and Dillon when I saw them at Papercuts the other year, a couple of years ago. So what
Very
I've
cool.
got is all. Did I show you the double spread on camera or off camera?
Off camera.
So I'll show it again, but it's
Yeah. For the kiddies at home. Yes. How good is that? Amazing. Man, and I've said it so many times, people who have never read this story are so missing out, and it's almost impossible to get. Man, you should do like what do they call it? Bootleg. You should do a bootleg version.
I'm
Bootleg printing.
seriously considering doing that.
Oh yeah. No, we won't tell anyone.
Yeah, well, they just don't call it Planet of the Apes, and I think call it something else.
Sure.
I don't want to move these around too much. There's a little bit of happening with the word balloons.
Yeah.
But Dillon's inking on some of this stuff is actually so lovely.
Yeah. Yeah. It was interesting because I was already a big fan of yours when this came out, and also, quite a fan of Dillon's work. And it was really interesting to see the combination there. It was same with the Jackaroo pages that he did. Could tell it was a little bit heavier and grungier.
Okay, well, here's a test for you. Who inked this page, Dillon or me?
Yeah, right. Let's see if I can tell through here. I'm pretty sure it's Dillon. See that hand on my right of the close up of the hand. That kind of looks like your stuff, but
that's actually me.
Yeah, right.
Me emulating Dillon's style because he wasn't able to finish the last chunk of pages for issue 3, I think, before Greg came on to help out, etc., etc., etc. So there were some pages that I had
consciously going heavier,
yeah. So, which was an interesting experiment, but there are some pages in the project that are me emulating Dillon, which was an interesting prospect.
Amazing. I'll see if I can pull out those books and have a bit of a look. That's from the last issue, is that right?
That is from part 3.
Yeah, okay, part 3. I'll have a look.
And in digging up that artwork, I actually came across a really rock-solid set of slightly larger than print size photocopies of the whole thing. So I was thinking, and even with the halftone lettratone on there, that's quite consistent and even in these laser photocopies. So I figured that if there was ever a time to do a trade paperback, that I'd use those as my base files, because the lettratone wouldn't have shrunk. That would have been photocopied at the time, back when the art was fresh. And I did a rescale, and they're about 5 or 10% larger than what you'd print them at in a collection. So there's a little bit of shrinkage, which would tighten things up as well.
Yeah, exactly.
But the toner is, because it's just been in a box and sealed away, the toner is still crisp and black, and it's really surprisingly, usable.
Yeah, cool.
For many years, I thought, I've broken up the artwork now, and I will never be able to scan off the original art and do a collection. But these photocopies are really, really good, so you could use them as the basis for a collection.
How many pages is that whole miniseries?
I think it's 28 pages a chapter.
And 4 chapters?
Yeah, 4 chapters.
Yeah. Right.
I think
110 pages or so.
Yeah.
Nice. Oh, that'd be a chunky book.
Yeah. And the thought had crossed my mind that it would be nice as a little pirate collection, or not marketed as an apes project, because it does stand on its own without, all you need to know is it's in the future, there's intelligent apes. Right. Yeah. In fact, the way I've drawn them, they don't even really look like the core Planet of the Apes characters either. Not really.
Did you use no, because it's a different time period, right? You didn't use the same characters, the same ape characters, or not? It's
Than
not
the
than
Malibu
the
ones.
television show and the movies.
No,
It's
no,
not Cornelius
they're all
and
original.
yeah,
Uh,
yeah.
there is
Oh
reference
man,
to one of Malibu's other characters in there. I think General Olo, which was in the Apes comics that Malibu published. But that's only a fleeting reference as to
right.
why they're on their journey across the jungle and stuff like that.
Yeah, brilliant.
It certainly doesn't affect the story in any way, shape, or form. Yeah.
Cool.
So, so I might do something with that now that I've uncovered them. I've got these boxes of stuff in there that you just don't know what you've hung on to over the years.
Yeah.
I've got this like stacks and stacks of stuff, and it's like, why am I keeping this? Why? Yes.
I'll come over and tell you which bits you should throw out into. And when I say throw out, I mean throw into my suitcase.
Yeah. So anyway, I'll be selling a few of these things over the next couple of weeks or so. But it's interesting that what a functional piece of artwork the old comic art was back in the day. Panels pasted on and liquid paper everywhere and electrotone and they're not pretty, but they are pretty, but they're not pretty.
Yeah. And your pages are always so super clean and crisp, and I can almost never see any trace of the pencil work or anything like that. I don't know how you clean them up so well.
Here's a couple more here.
What's there?
No, it's just an inking exercise.
Wow. Is that new?
No, that's really old.
I've never seen it. Amazing.
I think I did that as a marketing pose for when Red Kelso first started back in the early 90s. So
right.
But yeah, there's I can't see any whiteout on that at all. That's just all fairly clean. Yeah.
Incredible. The Chaloner feathering, amazing.
This one. Yeah.
Yes, that I recognize.
Yeah, a bit disappointed when I uncovered that. There was a little bit of, a speck of bug dirt or something on her leg there. So I had to white it out over the weekend. And that's the only little bit of white out on that piece as well.
You didn't try to scrape it off?
No, I didn't want to divot the board. It's my purpose-built Cyclone Comics art boards.
Yeah.
So that's just ivory card, nothing too resilient. So I didn't really want to dig into it too much.
Yeah.
But I'll give that another coat of white later on today to give it a little bit more opacity. But so coming up with all different kind of things from the vault. That's just another Apes page that I think, I don't know who inked that. I don't know who inked that. I even can't tell now. I got a feeling it was me. Yeah, anyway.
Yeah, it looks like you. Beautiful. Spoilers, though.
What? Someone dies. And this one, which is a page that I set aside from the Olympians, which is inked by Gary Martin.
Yeah.
Wow.
Gary Martin. Gary Martin.
Yeah.
Oh, how great. Amazing. He's a pretty good match for you, isn't he?
Yeah. I had the choice of let me see, there were 3 people supplied to me. One was Gary Martin, was my top choice. There was Roy Richardson or something like that, who was an old school inker from the 60s or 50s, I think. And there was, would you believe it or not, Al Williamson was on the list of people that they were going to approach. And
wow.
Yeah, it was. This is when he was obviously doing a lot of inking, and this is one of the projects that Marvel were going to give to him to have a look at. And they asked me who's my preference, and I knew Gary already, so it was, and I just liked his really tight. And I didn't know whether Al Williamson would actually work with my artwork or not. So I actually said, "Oh, give me Gary." You know, as much as everyone would say, "Al Williamson, you idiot! You select Al Williamson." I went, 2 Garys on a project is always a good thing.
Too many Garys is never enough.
Yeah, that's right. Watch out.
I can imagine Al Williamson would reinterpret a lot of what you did rather than ink it straight, and that would be the experiment there, I guess, to see what that would look like. Yeah, I love his stuff on like Daredevil, on Romita Jr.'s Daredevil, and well, you know, when he decides he understands what's going on and what he's going to do with it, it's pretty incredible.
This guy is hassling me out.
Who's that?
That's Rusty.
Rusty.
Look, you're meowing like a. Go on, say something to the microphone.
Meow. Oh, I don't think we could hear it before. No. What's up, Rusty? Cheeky bugger.
He's a fame hog. He just wants to be famous.
So there's my copies, Volume 1, Volume 2 of The Art of Comic Book Inking by Gary, which were really important to me to actually figure out how to do what I wanted to do, and just beautiful reproductions of methodology, as well as showing pencils versus inks, and the inks being done by more than one person over the same set of pencils. So yeah.
Have you seen his Facebook feed where?
I was going to say, I think it's only available in 1 volume now instead of 2 slim volumes. I think it's 1 thicker volume. Right. Very much worth picking up if you're a penciler or an inker. It's totally amazing.
Yeah.
No, I'm not on his Facebook feed.
Because he does inking experiments, and he's getting tighter and tighter as he gets older. So, you know, portraits of Marilyn Monroe, and he's even done things like Bernie Wrightson's Frankenstein scenes. He's re-inked in his like the lab scenes with all the bottles and jars and stuff like that. He's actually done a couple of them, of the Frankenstein pieces, and he chooses interesting works to reinterpret through his inking style, and absolutely amazing. So, you know, in hindsight, as much as a fanboy, I'd love to say, I've been inked by Al Williamson as well. I think, you know, for the project, thinking of the project and purely for the project, that Gary was the right choice for it.
Yeah, I totally understand that. But I would have chosen Al because we would have gotten half the pages each, and I would have gotten pages inked by Al Williamson in my collection. I'm not as altruistic as you are, Gary.
It's a bit insulting asking Al to do a test page, do a test panel to see whether, and then just keeping it for yourself. You're not getting the project, but I got a sample from you anyway.
That's a good plan, though. That's a good plan.
Yeah. But, you know, like, as you say, I was really in love with his inking of Romita Jr. on Daredevil. That was, and I was using that as my guide to how would he look on mine. My stuff would be roughed up around the edges and interpreted quite freely by him, I would suggest. So, because Gary was quite slavishly loyal to my pencil line and feathering and stuff.
Yeah. Interesting. Yeah, because Dave Stevens worked with Al, didn't he? Did he ghost for Al or ghost ink for Al on Star Wars?
I think so. You know, I know that they were good pals.
I'm trying to think that Al Williamson's work on like the Star Wars cartoon strip, comic strip, was a lot slicker. I think he went for something a lot cleaner at that period, so he can do it.
And didn't he do the Blade Runner adaptation as well? And he also did Empire Strikes Back, the Star Wars one.
Yeah, but that was much more in Al Williamson's like just general style, I would say. I'm no expert, so you know, Al Williamson fans don't come at me, but that's what I picture when I picture Al Williamson, and I've got that Empire Strikes Back Marvel Super Special. It's amazing. But yeah, I'm trying to think of in the comic strip, or I don't know if I'm thinking of somebody else's work, which was a lot cleaner and crisper, and so yeah, I don't know.
Didn't Russ Manning do the Star Wars strip?
That's who I'm thinking of, Russ Manning. Yeah, because that's super clean. Now, it's crystallized in my memory. Yeah, that was very clean.
We're so professional.
Yeah, sorry for the interruption. I've actually, while we were waiting to get back on, I pulled that off the shelf next to Gary Martin's inking books. This is Zap, Splat, Kapow, Make Your Own Comic by
Rod Tokely and Dillon Naylor.
Yeah.
Wow.
So yeah, a how-to book by Dillon Naylor.
I'd heard about this, but never actually saw one in the flesh.
Yeah, it's a cool little thing. It's pretty much like most of the how-to books that you would see, but delivered as a comic strip, or
Right.
parts of it as a comic strip.
Yeah.
So cool thing there. Yeah.
I'm going to release a book called How to Fail at Comics Without Really Trying.
Sounds good. Oh my God. All right. I was going to say, we're talking about inkers, etc. I took that Inktober about 5 years ago, where I printed out a bunch of blue lines and inked some of my comic book heroes, including you.
And Barry Smith.
Barry Windsor Smith, Paul Galassi, and Jim Steranko, a whole bunch. It was great. Yeah. But I had a list of whatever it was, how many days in October? 31, I guess.
30 days, September, April to 31.
Yep, so 31. And so I had a list of 29, and then I put Jack Kirby on for the last 2 days. And it's the first time I'd ever inked Jack Kirby. And I'm one of those people, and I'm so glad to hear that it's a common thing, that as a kid, I would go, I don't get why everyone thinks Jack Kirby is the king, right? And so I came to that kind of late. But not even that late, but there was a point, like when I was reading the Eternals soon after it came out in black and white reprints here, where I was going, this is actually, I don't know why I love it, but I do, the style of it. But inking a Captain America and a villain from Apocalypse, from the planet Apocalypse, yeah. Inking those two things absolutely changed even at my age, right? Absolutely changed my opinion.
And you're old.
Yeah, that's right. I'm old. How Jack's mind must work, because I know there's a level of simplification and abstraction and all of that stuff that people talk about. But when you ink it, and tried to ink it in my regular style, I was really there is a three-dimensionality to this when I try to do it. It's different to when Mike Royer, I guess, would ink, where I think he tried to push the abstraction more and make those weird squiggles an abstract aspect of it. Where I was going, so if this is a three-dimensional, if this is a thigh and it's foreshortened, and how would I go about trying to strengthen the idea of it, foreshortened, etc. And it was so much fun. It was so great. And I can't remember the name of the character from Apocalypse, but I picked a character specifically that was wrinkled and all of that kind of stuff, to really have some fun with it. And it was incredible. If you need a break from what you normally do a blue line of some Kirby pencils, probably from that era, and try. Don't just trace those lines. Actually try to figure out how to make them three-dimensional, and it will. That I found that to be extraordinarily educational.
Right. Yeah. I always thought that I'm with you, that I didn't like Kirby when I was younger, and I have an appreciation of him now. And also the understanding that he made a conscious decision back in the day, to develop his drawing for comic books the way he did, because he could have gone in any way to try and get into the comic strip, the newspaper strips, the Flash Gordons and the Prince Valiants of the world. He could have gone down that path, but he chose to simplify and to churn, and he was still very creative, of course, and all that kind of stuff. But the decision he would have made to draw a certain way and stick with it, it was pretty what's the word? Portentous, or important, because it changed so much in how people perceive what a comic book could be. And I think there was there was a little bit of a creative decision, but there was also a practical, how do I get pages turned out fast, and
absolutely,
and what am I rolling the dice on as far as what the kids will think is cool to visually absorb as well. And that's some very brave decision making, and that actually worked. And when Adams came along in the 70s in a big way, it was like these two giants stomping around with two different schools of art. You know, the realism and the what's the word I'm looking for? Stylized and realistic school. And yet they were both, fast friends. And have you ever seen any Kirby inked by Adams?
You know what? I don't think I ever have. Is there much of that?
There's not a lot. I've come across one or two, and even Barry Windsor Smith was quite strong as an inker on Kirby because he came from the Kirby school. Yeah.
That bicentennial super special treasury edition from Marvel. Oh my God, those pages by Kirby and Windsor Smith are incredible.
Yeah. So Kirby can be lifted.
Pencils, and I've seen the pencils and the inks next to each other. It's really interesting. Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, I was going to say that it just goes to show that even Kirby can be lifted to another plane, because I think those Captain America ones are absolutely fantastic.
Yeah.
And I've seen Dave Stevens ink Kirby, and that's quite a level up as well.
Yeah.
As far as inking is concerned. Yeah.
Yeah. It's very, very interesting. Yeah. I think he's a really interesting one to attack, and to as an attack with your inks to try to figure out what inking is about, rather than inking, again, like Neil Adams. If you were inking Neil Adams, it would be really difficult to try to make sure that those feathered lines are going around the form properly, etc. Not easy to do, but I find that it's a little bit less interpretive, while Kirby is like, he's kind of like, what are you going to do with this? Mr. Inker, what are you going to do with this? And you can watch that happen right through the Fantastic Four, from issue 1 to, I don't know, the early, like pre 50, issue 50, like was when he kind of in that period. And you say it was a bit of a creative as well as pragmatic decision, because he was pumping out pages. How can I get them done faster? But I also wonder how in the forefront of his mind, how much he understood that his time was finite, and he had a billion things knocking around in his brain that he needed to get out. So can I have the Fantastic Four, and I'll do the Avengers, and I'll do Black Panther, and can I do them all, because I've got so many ideas, and I can't do them at that level of what was the space comic strip he did for a little while, and I think
Sky Masters.
Sky Masters, yeah. I can't draw at that level and be pumping out 7 pages of pencils a day.
Yeah.
So
as creative as he was a commercial artist. He was a gigging artist trying to get money in for his mortgage and his family, and he made these decisions that were, genius decisions, but also quite brave, that he started developing this style through his monster comics and romance comics that he did in the 50s. And he solidified that and made it perfect for the Fantastic Four and onwards into the Marvel years. But I don't think there were too many other artists that made that kind of such a stylistic choice from what he could have been to assessing the business he was in, and decisions made to make money, keep people happy, keep the editors happy, make money, but make money primarily.
And also be creatively fulfilled.
And be creatively fulfilled, yeah. And I can see why he did all of his writing on the boards, and he wrote, gutter notes and stuff like that, because that side of things would have bogged him down. He just needed to get the pages out, make the notes for whoever was going to finish it off. Primarily at Marvel, it was Stan Lee, and just get it gone. Yeah.
Are there any other, can you think of anyone else who went into that simplification and stylization like that? Like most people say the same names again. People like Barry Windsor Smith went in the opposite direction, right? You get more and more complex and detail oriented. And
Alex Toth became
of
more
course,
precise in his lines and his black spotting over the years. He was always strong with his blacks, but I think he became more refined as he got older and older. I've noticed also that Jaime Hernandez is getting a bit more, cartoony in his old age as well. As he's getting older, he's simplifying his work even more to become a little bit more Archie comic, leaning into that kind of cartooniness. Because I think he's been writing and drawing about children and child characters a bit more in his latest run of Love and Rockets and stuff like that. I don't buy Love and Rockets on a regular basis. I get the collections and the hardcovers when they're repackaged.
Yep.
And I think it's a noticeable thing that over the last 10 years, his style has slowly morphed from what you would know of his artwork. His precision artwork is just becoming slightly more simplified as he's getting older.
Right.
So it does happen.
Yeah.
All
right.
Have you noticed any kind of, sorry?
You had a top up of your tea in the break.
Yeah. Bell's done a ninja, and I'm just sitting. That woman with the strange voice.
In comes the tea. Sorry, what were you going to say? You were going to say something important, I'm sure.
I was going to. We mentioned Dean Rankin earlier. What a mighty work ethic he has, and how his style has changed over the years as well. Just pulling it back to Australian artists. And the other side of the coin, you got someone like Paul Mason, who is leaning into his, beautiful Kirby inspired, but it is, but it isn't. It's like its own thing now. It's turned into its own thing in a big way. Yeah. But those two are like mighty producers in this country. I really love their output and their work ethic. And Paul's been doing some wonderful writing on his Phantom Vietnam stories, which I hope he gets to finish all the stories that he wants to do, and it gets collected in a lovely big chunky volume. Sometimes I think the way through break up stories or fragment their running of continuous themed stories across their title is a little bit too disjointed. I mean, it's great that it gets done full stop because they hire a lot of Australian artists to do work these days. But
fantastic.
But I'm looking forward.
Could also be that that's the scheduling that the artists have. I can't get it finished, so it gets printed when it's ready, I suppose.
Yeah. But the last couple of weeks we've been talking about different formats that may or may not succeed in bookstores and comic shops and news agents and things like that. And Frew have been doing a lot of that over the last since the new owners have taken over. Glenn Ford, his compatriots, have been hiring so many Australian artists and giving opportunities for covers and for ongoing stories. Jason Paulos has had advantage from Frew. And Chris Sequeira back in the slightly earlier phase as well, and there's so many artists.
Julie Dietrich,
and to have a cover on a Phantom comic is a real tick in the career box, I reckon. When's yours coming out?
I look, to be honest, I mean, if Glenn approached me and said, "Would you like to do a cover?" I would drop everything to do it. Absolutely. But I don't want to look like I'm just trying to get on a bandwagon there. I totally understand the importance of the Phantom globally and very specifically locally, but I'm not a big fan of it. I don't read it. At any time I've drawn the Phantom, and I've done a few commissions drawing the Phantom, and they're always such great fun. He's got that iconic look, but I don't want to be. I just feel like they could smell it. The proper fans would smell it a mile away. That Tim's just come on because there's money.
You're just standing out by the back door with a cigarette, going, "No, I'm going to let them come to me. I'm going to let them come to me." The old McEwen fan, I don't really want to do it. Not interested. I see what your tactic is. Driving up the dollars.
I'm not like a superheroics kind of guy either,
Well, now that you say that, there's very few people that actually get the Phantom body right, in my opinion. Like the Cy Barry is the perfect model, morphed with Glenn Lumsden and his version with the grey suit that he's slightly bulkier and got the broken boxer's nose, and and there are a lot of people just drawing him like Spider-Man, and it's like no, the Phantom's not skinny and muscular, and he's a big burly guy. He's got a bit of heft to him.
Yeah,
and,
exactly.
I dismiss a lot of Phantom stuff that I see of straight away by it's just that's not the Phantom. That's not the Phantom. No, that's not the Phantom. No, it's not the Phantom. No. So
it says Windsor McCoy, not Windsor. Is it McCoy? Right?
Yeah, it is. Yeah.
Because he had like that old fashioned beefy kind of boxer look to his version as well.
Yeah.
Which I really like.
Yeah.
I like the look of that.
And
I
think Paul Mason keeps that as well. He's got a nice style and interpretation of the Phantom, and so hats off to Dean, hats off to Paul. Keep on going, doing your thing. Yeah.
Let's keep on taking some hats off. We were going to talk about the Eisner Award nominations as well.
Yes, you were going to talk about that, weren't you?
Yeah, I don't know a lot about it other than the fact that that I didn't get nominated, and that was the main reason why I looked it up.
Don't worry, just stay back by the back door with your cigarette, and the Eisners will come to you eventually.
Exactly.
No rush. Yeah.
And you think I'm joking, but I sent Green and Pastures number 8 off for them to have a look at because if you don't do it, you never know, right?
Oh, you definitely,
unless you. So, and if I keep on sending copies off, issues 9, 10, 11, whatever, as they happen, maybe one day someone will say, well, actually, there's something in this. So anyway, that's talking about me. Let's talk about the people who actually were nominated. From my knowledge, I think it's 2 Australians in the noms this year, which is fantastic. Tom Taylor, as one of the contributors to, I'm reading it off my screen, Detective Comics with Ram V and Riccardo Federici and Stefano Raphael Javier Fernandez, Christian Deuce, March, and Miguel Yanin. So it's obviously, as a DC comic, a whole lot of contributors to that. But that's Detective Comics' best continuing series, which is fantastic.
Yeah.
Another feather in Tom Taylor's hat there, really great. But I think the really interesting surprise one is for best short story, Stacey Gugoulis, I think you would pronounce it, Stacey Gugoulis, for a story called Pig. Which was printed by Fantagraphics in now number 13. And I probably wouldn't have known that if I hadn't had a really good look through all of the nominees just for the sake of it, and for seeing it on social media, somebody saying Stacey was nominated. So Stacey, Melbourne-based, I think, is a multimedia kind of person. I think he's been on radio and that kind of thing. But yeah, he's a comic book creator or comics creator as well. Fingers crossed for both Stacey and Tom Taylor and crew.
Yeah, big congrats. Yes. And also I noticed in passing over the last week that Neverlanders got awarded a French award. It's known over there, the French edition is Return to Neverland. But it won, I don't know what the Palme d'Or for some French award that they won, which is well deserved. Any award that is sheds light on fantastic work is welcome, and to have international profile like that is absolutely amazing as well. So congrats to
Neverlanders by
John Somariva and Tom Taylor.
Yeah, fantastic. Great kids book. Yeah. They're really putting their heart and soul into that, which is fantastic. Yeah, and
they've mentioned that their work, that issue, the second book is almost finished, so they're producing that at pace. So
and there's, you talk about people with great work ethic. Look at John Somariva; it's incredible. What he does as well. Well done, well deserved, fantastic. Yeah. Thanks for bringing that one up too.
Yeah. Are you heading to Papercuts in September, or
I am. I got accepted.
You got accepted.
Very exciting.
That is going to be huge. I think you may have mentioned that in a previous show, but I'm old, but we're worth reiterating. But Papercuts is going to be pretty mighty. I think this year again, it's just gonna go on to strength. I think. Yeah.
And I love the big festival kind of idea of conventions rather than conventions. They have a festival, so they have a thing on Friday night, and they have like a conference sort of day on the Saturday, I think it is, and then the market day on the Sunday, similar to PCAF in Perth.
Yeah.
So yeah, really, I'm keen. I think Anne-Marie and I will probably go down a few days early and have a look around Adelaide and environs before and afterwards as well. So we'll see you there, Gary.
No. Everyone's coming to me in October.
Exactly. Sit there at the back door with your cigarette and go, everybody's got a cup of tea.
You can't have this. No, you can't. But yeah, the market day Papercuts, I've said a couple of times, I was very impressed with. So if it's grown in scale, batten down the hatches, I would take a seatbelt to just make sure you stay seated and behind your table, because you just want to wander away and look at everything.
Yeah, cool.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah, so if it's anything like the one I went to, that Papercuts this year is going to be huge.
Brilliant. September. More power to...
and PCAF, Perth Comic Arts Festival, is on next month or really soon?
July, I think.
Right, okay.
I think it's July, yeah.
That's another one that's going from strength to strength.
So we had a great day. I've been once. We had a great day on their market day, and again, their workshops and conference material, really great. It's very much about the people who conceive of these things, what they want to make of the festival, and both the team behind PCAF, Perth Comic Arts Festival, and the Papercuts Comic Arts Festival have got their heads screwed on really well, making great stuff.
Yeah. So 2 great festivals to support, and they're a lot of fun. Yep. What else? Anything else to talk about?
I reckon that'll do me. Yeah. Just looking.
What's that bottle of red wine behind you?
Was it red? It was Sauvignon Blanc.
Greener Pastures.
Nice. I forget how I discovered them. Somebody else, I think a Greener Pastures fan, alerted me to it. So it's a real vineyard, and we bought a few bottles.
I bet you
did. It's nice.
Yeah.
It's nice. I don't drink, as you know, very often or very much, but I drink some of that, and I'm just kind of waiting for my next sketchbook, because the label comes off nice and I can put it on the front of my sketchbook. Nice. But I've got a couple of empty bottles as well to in the bookcase downstairs. So yeah, see, they're very small, like indie and small, like you and I. Otherwise, I'd be hitting them up for promotional dollars. Oh, sorry, was that an insult? Sorry. Where's your Cyclone? Where's your Cyclone wine? Is there a Jackaroo vineyard?
I've got a Jackaroo stubby holder coming at some stage, but that's about it. Anyway, okay, I think that'll be it for the week. I'm going to press a button that'll stop us being embarrassing, and I'll
Brilliant.
Talk to you next week.
Nice to see you all.
Okay.
Bye.